seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat, then I ain't taking, friend.
So this is, Sabacc?
Sabacc.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sabacc the Block. I am here once again with Emma Fyffe in the house. Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a weird, because obviously, as many of y'all know, I actually do go into a studio to work on Wednesdays,
Yes.
Thursdays, and Fridays. And we're still allowed to do that even with the new restrictions in Los Angeles County because contact tracing is really good on sets. And that is the one place we know people are not contracting COVID. So, hey, filming can continue. But I had a lot of work today, but just like spread out in weird ways throughout the day. So I feel like I've been working for many, many hours. But I'm ready to delve into some Star Wars, you know?
Yeah, I'm super excited, especially about this episode, which is one of the most hyped episodes I've seen probably ever in the Mandalorian history.
I mean, listen, yes, but for me personally, this was not as hype as the episode where Katie Sackhoff made her on-screen debut as Bo-Katan. That was leaps and bounds more exciting for me. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as fans like knowing what's going to happen in an episode,
Sure.
I think that's maybe why I would see. As far as like what's a better episode is a really good question because that was my favorite episode up to that point, and then this episode came along, and now I'm like, ooh, this might be a close race between these two as far as my favorite.
Interesting.
But as far as like the lead up to it, everyone knew that Ahsoka was going to be in that episode. Like, it was the worst kept secret.
Yeah, I mean, well, because they'd mentioned her a couple episodes previously.
Yes.
And then on top of that, this episode we knew was directed by Dave Filoni, and it was called The Jedi. So, you know, didn't leave too much to the imagination, shall we say.
It didn't, and it was kind of funny, but at the same time, it was really exciting. It was a cool, fun moment, at least the lead up to it before the episode actually premiered, where Star Wars Twitter was kind of like, hey, we're all in this together. We're going to see a cool live action character that we all pretty much like.
Yeah.
And we get to enjoy it and we get to see that. So that leads us straight to our main topic, our Star Wars news, which is all about this episode, The Jedi.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true.
So obviously, guys, we're going to talk about this new episode directed by Dave Filoni, The Jedi. Ahsoka Tano makes her live action debut. Obviously, we're going to get into almost every single little detail we possibly can when it comes to Ahsoka's character. But the first question I have, Emma, is what did you think of the episode? Overall thoughts on the episode?
I liked the Kurosawa-ness of it all.
Yes.
I thought that the storytelling in terms of illustrating the connection between the baby and the Mandalorian was really great. I loved the setup of the little ball from the stick shift thing inside of the Razor Crest that Baby Yoda always wants to play with, and how that ended up in his pocket and how that came back around later when he was trying to basically demonstrate to Ahsoka that the baby could use the Force. I loved the magistrate and everything that was going on with her and her gang. I loved the fight between herself and Ahsoka at the end of the episode. It was very reminiscent of a fight scene between San and Lady Eboshi and Princess Mononoke. So in terms of sort of like the Japanese cinema aspect of it all, I really, really enjoyed that. I thought Rosario Dawson was real boring as Ahsoka.
Ooh, hot take right off the bat. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so this is me playing a little bit of defense. Do you feel like maybe that's because of something that's gone on with Ahsoka off screen that they might get into? Like maybe she's purposely kind of sullen and kind of stoic. because of something that's been
I think
going on.
the thing for
there
me
as
that
a-
I feel like I can sort of justify is that obviously we're seeing her at a later point in her life than we've really spent a lot of time with her. We saw her at the end of Star Wars Rebels, and certainly her appearance in this is very reminiscent of what we saw at the end of that episode. I just felt like the character lacked the energy that made that character so appealing throughout her entire journey, even as she grew up and became more thoughtful and sullen and wise to the world. Like, there still was this tremendous amount of like empathy to her that I think that they were trying to sort of illustrate. And I know that that was kind of the idea behind it, in terms of, there was an interview where Dave Filoni was saying like, oh, he knew the baby's name. And he's like, how are we going to reveal Baby Yoda's name? And it could definitely be connected to his meeting with Ahsoka because she is so empathetic and she would be able to have some sort of, communication with him, which we did see illustrated in this episode. But I just felt like she could have been anyone, and that Rosario Dawson didn't really bring anything to the performance.
As far as you mean acting wise, right?
Yeah.
Any actress, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
I thought that the design looked amazing. I thought
That was my follow-up.
I thought she looked incredible. Again, the fight scenes were so good. I had a little bit of a conversation with this, about this with my friend Riley Silverman, who, is of course, so Riley is a trans woman, and we don't obviously know the full extent of or the veracity of the allegations that have been made against Rosario Dawson and her family, but we can't simply ignore that those exist, even though, again, there was a really great article in Variety that I believe Anthony Bresikin was one of the writers on, where they basically kind of delved into, it was more about what was going on with Gina Carano. I said my piece on that last week. But, and basically saying, a lot of the charges against them have been dropped, et cetera. And I certainly want to believe that all of that is true, but I can't unknow what I know. But I truly do not believe that that is what was kind of coloring my opinions on this, because again, this is not someone who has doubled down and been like, I absolutely didn't do that, and didn't like try to mock people in the way that, say, her Star Wars counterpart, Gina Carano, did. She's largely been like, hey, I didn't do this. This isn't true. But again, and I am very much of the opinion that even if it is true, I want to give people the space to learn and grow and change. But the fact of the matter is like, I genuinely do not believe that my opinion of the character was at least heavily, or of the portrayal was at least heavily covered by that. This is not a hot take, you guys. I just really did not get, I didn't get Ahsoka from Rosario Dawson's portrayal of the character. It did not feel like the Ahsoka Tano that I know. And again, like, I am willing to believe that there is a big gap in this story that I do not know about that has changed her and made her into this character that she is now. Again, it's like, I think that some of the best, I think that the absolute best portrayal of Luke Skywalker is in The Last Jedi. So, take my opinion with a grain of salt because I'm a moron. But yeah, I wanted to love her and I just didn't.
One of my things too is the fact that I like that you brought up that little bit of background information, because it was even brought up by the author of that Variety interview, who directly asked Rosario Dawson how she feels about fans who love Ahsoka, but also feel kind of conflicted because of what they are hearing as far as this lawsuit. It's fair.
Chat, please stop. I'm sorry. Chat, please stop yelling at me about the Rosario Dawson thing. A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. I know that most of the allegations against her were dropped.
It's one of those things where you are allowed to bring up, and I feel like I have to give credit to Alex Damon because he tweeted this out. There is a way to have a conversation as a fan about a character that we love and see in it and being excited to see it in live action form, while at the same time saying, hey, we acknowledge that this might be a little bit hard for people, and this is not fair to people from the trans community who feel a little bit left out and who feel like, hey, we're a little bit too quick to be jumping on board, a little bit too quick to celebrate something that we don't know the full story completely yet.
Yeah.
We know that most charges have been dropped. We don't know the absolute full story. We hear both sides. One of the sides seems to be tracking a little bit, but not all the way. It's one of those things where there is a way to balance that. And I don't feel like that's a bad thing to do, to say, hey, I still feel some type of way, a little type of way of the Rosario Dawson casting because of this news that has come out. Because
totally.
I think that's absolutely fair. And I don't think anyone should jump on you for that, because that's something that we should all do as Star Wars fans.
It's just like people are saying things like, oh, this is why you feel the way that you feel. And it's like, don't tell me why I feel the way that I feel.
Sure. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely allowed to say, hey, there's this and I'm separating this. But at the same time, I still didn't really care for her performance.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. And I really do feel like it's one of those things where we should, as Star Wars fans, whether you have a connection to any other community or not, to bring that up, because it acknowledges all Star Wars fans, not just one type of Star Wars fan, that come from different backgrounds and that have different life experiences. So absolutely, Emma. I think that's a great point.
I think the way that I feel about it is a little bit of like the way that I feel about Rise of Skywalker, which I don't care for. I enjoyed her performance more than I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker, but for anybody that loved this interpretation of Ahsoka, I'm so happy for you. It just wasn't me.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm being honest, I think I did. And it's not that it blew me away. It's not that it necessarily, brought the house down. It wasn't like Adam Driver in sequels or
I love
Daisy
Adam
Ridley.
Driver.
Those two to me still do a lot more to me than anything I've seen so far with this.
Yeah.
That's not a takeaway from her necessarily, but to me, it's a good translation from this character that we've known, and it's a little bit more of a jaded character. You can clearly tell that's what Dave was going for. So I acknowledge the fact that maybe this is a different Ahsoka.
Totally.
This is an Ahsoka that has a little bit more of an edge, which is why in the first scene of the episode, Emma, we see her jacking dudes up, left, like slicing heads off. So right away, you kind of know, like, yo, Ahsoka kind of going for it right now, as far as like leaning into her aggression, anger, passions, whatever you want to say. But either way, it's an Ahsoka that's a slightly more aggressive Ahsoka.
Sure.
That clearly tells you right off the bat that maybe something has gone on that has made her to be this way. But I think it's absolutely fair to not be super impressed with her performance and to kind of have your own opinions on that.
I think too,
it wasn't anything special.
It just wasn't anything special. She wasn't bad. No. She was perfectly acceptable. Is like my opinion about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And she feels like she fits inside the world, which I think makes sense.
Right.
Inside this type of show, but I really bought into it. A lot of it had to do with, it's hard to separate nostalgia and it's hard to separate.
It is.
It really is. I tweeted it out. Like, it will never not be cool. I said this. I said it will never not be cool to see beloved cartoon, like animated characters that you love into live action form. Like, no matter what you do, it's kind of cool to see a live action Bo-Katan, to see a live action Ahsoka, if we get to see a Sabine or Ezra.
And I think cool. too that again, like, some of it also, not to harp on this so much, but like, again, this was after seeing Katie Sackhoff play Bo-Katan, a character she's played for like 10 years. And I think if the order had been different, like if we'd seen Ahsoka first and met Bo-Katan later, I might not feel quite as let down as I do.
Absolutely, yeah. There is something to be said about those performances that have stayed with those actors for such a long time, which is a great example with Katie Sackhoff. That's absolutely a fair point. I really enjoyed her live action form. I love seeing her in action. I thought that was one of the highlights, if not the highlight of the episode, was seeing Ahsoka just in action.
The
really
fight
cool.
scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
The fight scenes in this episode were absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was my follow-up too, is like if there was a standout in this episode besides the Baby Yoda name, it's definitely Ahsoka. Not necessarily seeing Ahsoka in live action, but seeing Ahsoka live action in action. Seeing her kick ass is just really, really cool. With those two sabers, I thought that was a really cool translation between animated form and live action form. That was really freaking cool. Speaking of which, let's move on, Emma, to the Grogu in the room. We finally got a name, something that has actually been. I forgot what podcast. I swear I listened to like 5 Star Wars podcasts, so I want to give them credit, but I don't remember. Someone said this like way back in the day. They said that Ahsoka was going to finally give. I think it was who was it? Never mind. They said that Ahsoka was going to name Baby Yoda finally, and that we were finally going to get a name. So I was kind of looking forward to it because I was like, that's such a great prediction to say that, guaranteed that Ahsoka is going to say his name. And we got the name, and his name is Grogu.
Grogu.
And honestly, I was right on board. I know a lot of people didn't care for it, but Emma, I was like, I'm in.
Oh,
sure.
I'm totally in. I love Grogu.
I was like, sure, Grogu works.
Yep,
Why
cool,
not?
Great, why not?
Yeah, we have Yoda, we have Yaddle, now we have Grogu. It breaks the whys of the whole thing, but why not? So what do you think of his name? You were on board as well?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I was super down with it. I mean, it's like the most Star Warsy name ever. Yes. Of like, what sound does a baby sort of make? Goo goo. Okay, it's Grogu. Like, you know. Yeah.
Apparently, Jon Favreau came up with the name, which is something that really stood out to me in that interview that Dave Filoni had with Variety. He said that Favreau actually named him, and that he told him back in season 1, like halfway through season 1, he was like, "Oh, by the way, his name is Grogu." And Filoni was like, sure. But I was really on board. It definitely is the death of Baby Yoda. By Baby Yoda, I mean the name Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
At least they're going to try to, because I'm sure that's going to live on for at least another year. But I'm cool with it because I really do feel like, I know this is a weird conversation, Emma, but the Baby Yoda in the room, of the fact that a lot of people were like, what is this creature? They were like, oh, it's like a Yoda. It's like a baby Yoda. And that's what stuck as far as like literally episode 1 back in the day, last year. So that's what they kept calling it, Baby Yoda, and not the child, which is what they wanted.
I know. I was like checking Twitter to see if you did like a hashtag Grogu, if it made the little child.
It did. It does.
Oh, it does. Oh, yeah. Good to know.
Shout out to Sabrina, who put our hashtag Grogu, and a little Baby Yoda came out.
Nice. I love it.
So baby Grogu actually means Baby Yoda. It just goes back to Baby Yoda. But my thing is, like, now that we have a name, the reason why we called him Baby Yoda is because we didn't know what species it was.
Yes.
And the first thing we see is the Yoda form, so we know Yoda. But now that we have a name, his name is Grogu. Don't get mad at us if we're going to alternate the names between Baby Yoda and Grogu. I will forget at times, but I will try my best to call him Grogu because that is his name. And he actually responded to it, Emma. What'd you think of him literally responding?
It was so good. Again, like, this episode was incredibly well made. Like, basically, because the way that whole thing was structured, where Ahsoka's like, his name is Grogu, and Din Djarin's like, who's Grogu? And she's like, this is Grogu. And when he calls him Grogu and he looks at him, it was so good.
Yeah, it was great. It was one of those moments where he's like, really? Grogu? Let me try it. Grogu. And he's like, huh? What's up? And he reacts to it. It's such an amazing moment. But besides that, I also want to get into the Grogu of it all. I want to get into the Force of it all. what you think of the idea of him responding to Din versus him responding to Ahsoka when it comes to using the Force?
Well, I mean, I think the whole thing was basically just to illustrate the fact that, and this was one of the things that I really, really enjoyed about the episode, was this whole exploration of sort of the bond between the Mandalorian and the child, and how it's personal and almost like material attachments that compel him to use his Force powers. Like right now, they are 1,000% being fueled by emotions.
Yes. Yeah. And it's connected. It's the connection he has with Daddy Lorian, Din, that makes him use the Force. It's interesting, right? Because the first time we saw him use the Force was with that Mudhorn creature and saving him from that. So that's what Ahsoka acknowledges right off the bat. Also, the gigantic other Grogu in the room is the fact that he was raised in the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Trained by many great masters, according to Ahsoka. And,
I mean, he's like 50 years old.
He's 50,
so,
yeah.
He's older than Ahsoka.
It makes total sense. No, I loved it. I loved it because I like the idea of him being like I forget who said it, but like Jedi Nursery. I think it was the Force Center guys who said that. The Jedi Nursery in the Coruscant Jedi Temple. I love the idea of him being in that. My thing too, Emma, I don't know. I kind of want to bring up this question about his regression, where Ahsoka mentions that he's somehow regressing or kind of pushing down his Force powers.
Yes, to hide and to survive.
And also the fact that he spent a lot of time in darkness or alone is what she says. Alone and in darkness, I think is what she says, which to me implied the pod because it was closed that whole time. So I thought like maybe he was in that pod for like forever until he was found by Din.
Yeah.
But what if that somehow did not only regress his Force powers, but just regress himself mentally and physically? Like, what if Baby Yoda all this time is very social and adaptable back when he was with the Jedi Temple, but because he spent so much time alone, he kind of closed off and closed in, not just his Force powers, but his ability to connect to others. Because we do know that Baby Yoda is a little bit disconnected from everything else. He's only connected to Din. Am I reaching with that? The fact that maybe he's also that he's regressed his powers and his regressed himself?
I don't think so. I mean, especially just from the point of view that, you know, if you are somebody as Baby Grogu certainly was, that was raised in the presence of many who were kind of all like you and were lifting you up and encouraging you to learn your powers and learn to control them and utilize them, etc. And then you go into a situation wherein the one thing that has defined you is going to certainly result in you getting murdered. I mean, that's pretty traumatic. That people can certainly regress.
Yeah, that's one thing that stood out to me for sure. And I love the idea of him and his connection with Din. Let's move on to the conclusion of this episode, which ends with the Magistrate versus Ahsoka and the taking down of that city. I love, by the way, Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained said it's very the city, the way it's like inner walls and it gets richer and richer the more you go inside. Also very Attack on Titan.
Very Attack on Titan, yes.
Yeah.
But also that's a common trope of like the deeper in you get, the more protected you are, the more money you have.
Yeah. But I love the shot we get when the gates open and we see the luscious, beautiful Japanese style garden that the Magistrate has. And just literally right outside, there's people being electrocuted on like little poles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of like, maybe like old time Roman era of like crucifixes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the fact that like Ahsoka and the Mandalorian both like wanted to go back and save them, you know?
Yeah. But once we get inside, we meet the magistrate and we see her pay the Mandalorian to hunt down Ahsoka, which I thought was a great story beat.
It was really great. Yeah,
great.
Because he didn't know how he was going to find her. And then he shows up and the magistrate's like, yo, I need you to hunt this Jedi for you. And he's like, jackpot.
He's like, that's why I'm here. Literally pulls an Obi-Wan. No, I thought that was perfect. I was like, that makes so much sense. All he has to do is be like, yeah, I'm a crazy Mandalorian bounty hunter. You know, I'm a badass. And they're like, well, why don't you kill the Jedi? Oh, that's perfect. I can do that. That worked so well for me. I really thought that was a cool moment. But once we meet the magistrate and once we meet Ahsoka and they face off, the first thing that I have written down on my notes, Emma, is Beskar stops lightsabers. What?
Oh yeah, that's like
what'd you think of that?
That's like old school, like expanded universe Mandalorian shit right there. Of like, because basically that was the whole idea behind sort of the development of all of the armor and the gadgets and all the things that we've come to associate with the Mandalorians, the jetpacks, the wrist rockets and lasers and zip ties and all that kind of stuff. All of that was developed specifically so that they could fight against the Jedi. Yeah,
I did notice that, but it's one of those things where it definitely like shocked me.
Oh, but still seeing it, yeah.
Yeah, because I've never seen anything block a lightsaber before, at least not in live action that I've seen, besides like maybe the IG-100 Magna Guard droids and all that. But that's like a super electro staff. But something that's not an
that's not also a laser, like something just solid. Yeah.
Correct, which is not like electro-based or electro staff or something like that. Just pure metal. I thought that was wild. It would have been insane if Din just did the rest of the show with no arms. Literally blocks it with his arm and he's like, oh, there goes my arm. That would have been crazy. But the fact that was brought up into the show was really interesting because it immediately clicked in me, Emma. I don't know if it clicked in you, that I was like, oh, now we could see a lightsaber on Beskar fight. And that's exactly what we got at the final
sure did.
Scene of the show. What'd you think of that fight?
The fight was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was, it was straight out of a samurai film. Like it was this cool juxtaposition of Ahsoka fighting the magistrate inside the walls while the Mandalorian fought her like right-hand man outside the walls. And they had like a very Western style duel.
Yes. Yep. I thought it was super cool. It was like the combination of a samurai film and a Western outside. That's so cool. I love the idea of like the sound effects. I don't know if you caught on to that with the clashing of the metal and the clashing of the lightsaber. Really unique sounds. A lot of credit to the sound designers for that. And obviously it concludes with the defeat of them. Before we get to the blue person in the room, because that's literally my green Psylop, I want to finish with the idea of him escaping the Jedi Temple, Grogu, during Order 66 or before Order 60, wherever that timeline lines up. What do you think of that whole thing, of the idea of him escaping Anakin's wrath or Vader's wrath?
I mean, he had to have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was in clearly the nursery equivalent. I saw somebody in chat mention kind of like doing the math of Yoda's supposed to be over 900 when he dies. So 50 is quite young for this species. We don't actually know the exact age of Yoda because he just says over 900. So we know the species lives a really, really long time. Therefore, 50 is, I don't know, maybe like a 4-year-old, like,
It's very confusing. I can't lie. I've rewatched Empire Strikes Back a few times, and when he says for 800 years I've trained Jedi, I've been like, 800 years? If he's trained Jedi for 800 years.
Wait. Can I tell you I thought too hard about Obi-Wan's age the other day, because now based on everything else that's happened with Star Wars, like Sir Alec Guinness is way too old to have been Obi-Wan.
Yeah, they're definitely hitting this moment where
you
they're
think about
realizing, like,
and I mean, granted, like Katie is a little bit young to play Bo-Katan. She's a little bit young. Assuming Bo-Katan, when we meet her in Clone Wars, is supposed to be like 19, probably 19, 20. But like at this point, Luke is, this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. You already have like a 3 to 5 year span within that original trilogy. So it's like, she should probably be like 50-ish now.
Oh yeah.
But still, Obi-Wan, yeah, he's older than she is, but he's like 19 in Phantom Menace. Not that much time really passes between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. So I just thought way too hard about Obi-Wan's age.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in doing that. I did the same with Boba. Obviously, everyone was casting Tamara Morrison. And I'm like, Tamara Morrison's like 60. I love the guy, but he's like 60. And Boba Fett, like, if we do them real quick right now.
Yeah.
He's 13 he's 10 in Attack of the Clones. He's 13 in Revenge of the Sith. 20 years. That makes him 33. Add another 3, add another 5.
He's maybe 40.
38, right?
Yeah.
38, 40 is about his age. Tamara Morrison is not 38. So I think that was
it's fine.
It's fine. They're going to do the Obi-Wan show. He's going to be playing a 60-year-old or something like that. And we're going to
No, Ewan McGregor is the right age.
Is he really?
I think Ewan McGregor is about the right age to play like who Obi-Wan should have been in Star Wars 1977.
No, but is his show going to be, is he going to be the right age for his show though?
Yeah, I think he'll be the right age for a show. Yeah.
Oh, will he? Okay. I've just been confused on when it's going to take place. So maybe that's what's got
I don't know. Apparently, two sons just age you real fast when you're just living in the desert.
Yeah. Just run with it. Roll with it. Why not?
Yeah.
Star Wars ages is always going to be a weird thing.
It's always going to be weird.
Yeah. Let's move on to the green Psylop because I feel like this is an important Psylop.
If you'd only had this little green Psylop.
Obviously, the green Psylop is the massive name drop, Emma, that we got that I wasn't expecting. Apparently, people were like, yeah, it's so obvious. And I'm like,
I was not expecting it at all.
I was like, what? Did not see. I thought she was going to be like, where is Moff Gideon?
I was really excited when Ahsoka was getting in there being like, I need to know, you have information I need to know where your master is. And I was like, oh, I wonder who her master is. I was not expecting the answer.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moments where I was completely blown away by it. And what are your thoughts on the idea of now having this confirmed, of seeing live action Thrawn?
I am just delighted that Thrawn is still alive for very selfish reasons, which is specifically that Grand Admiral Thrawn appeared as a character on a couple of episodes of the Star Wars RPG that I did that took place in the time period in between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. So like canonically it was a little weird, especially because we didn't even know Thrawn was alive since he got spirited away by the Purrgil. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to roll that Thrawn's a cool character. And also my GM hates all things modern Star Wars. So, he didn't care. But I will say that I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now I feel like we can totally be canon because we know faux show that Thrawn is alive. But again, I really enjoy Thrawn as a villain. I think the way that he has been introduced into Star Wars canon is extremely well done. It's super cool that Timothy Zahn, who created the character for the expanded universe novels, has been the one that's been able to reintroduce him into Star Wars novels. I loved Lars Mikkelsen's performance of the character in Star Wars Rebels. I thought he was a great villain on that series. And again, it kind of makes sense with you have this artifact that is this Beskar steel spear. Who collects artifacts and relics from other cultures in order to have a greater understanding of the people there so he can use that information against them, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, I think it works. I think it works really well. And I hope, I kind of hope, I won't be mad, but I kind of hope it's not connected to Moff Gideon. If
I don't,
as in like he's his lieutenant or something like that. I hope that's not the case. It could be, and I'll be fine with it, but it's not something that I'm looking forward to where Moff Gideon leads to Thrawn.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment. This feels bigger than a Moff Gideon. You know what I mean? Like this feels to me like a future season kind of villain. Like we deal with Moff Gideon, but also Thrawn was out there and still at large doing whatever he's doing, because Thrawn, even though, and she did say Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is interesting if he is still in fact going by that title. Because then it's like, what is he about? Because Thrawn's always kind of been on his own side.
Yep, that's exactly it, which is why I don't want that connection to Moff Gideon, because to me, that's what makes Thrawn so much of a better character, is that he is kind of usually doing it for himself and not really playing with the team. I'm super curious, but again, it leads to my follow-up question to you, Emma. Do you think if we do see a live action Thrawn, will it be in this show, in The Mandalorian?
Assuming that they get renewed for more seasons.
Correct.
Yes, but I would not say, I don't think it's an anytime soon thing.
Got you. Because the thing that I jump to is that obviously this isn't nothing new as far as people jumping to this conclusion, as far as like a spinoff show.
Yeah.
And what better way to do a spinoff show than to make Thrawn the bad guy of another show?
Sure.
Is not The Mandalorian, and that could be its own mission.
Only problem with that would be, don't introduce the idea of a character who we are not going to see in this show. Especially one as big as a Grand Admiral Thrawn, whom many people in the Star Wars community already have this big connection to. It doesn't mean that Thrawn needs to be a major player in this show. I think that if there is going to be a spinoff, he needs to show up in this show first.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment for sure. And I definitely think we're starting to reach the Moff Gideon conclusion.
Yeah. Because I don't want it to become you have to, and I'm speaking as somebody that basically does watch everything that's Star Wars, but like, I don't want Star Wars to get into a world wherein you have to have watched every single episode of everything Star Wars to understand what's going on. You know, I mean, it's like, I applaud what the Marvel Cinematic Universe pulled off, but you know, I know some people that have only watched, the Avengers crossover films, and, they're like, okay, these are all right. But you don't really have, because I think it's still very, very possible to appreciate The Mandalorian without having watched everything Star Wars. I think you are very heavily rewarded for being deeply invested in Star Wars lore, but I think thus far it has done a really good job of standing on its own. And I don't want it to get into the territory of suddenly this is about characters who you need to have a deep understanding of their backstory. And that backstory is not in this show. It's in another thing.
That's kind of my thing too, Emma. And if I'm really bringing a slightly hot take, and by hot, I mean, it's like a little spicy, not too much. It's that I think we're starting to walk towards that edge. And it's starting to get a little dicey, because I'm starting to feel like it's one thing to be like Ahsoka, where it's like,
sure.
But then once we get into Thrawn is like, he's an expanded, like he started in an expanded universe. I know. Even bringing him in Rebels was kind of a thing where it's like, if you just watched the movies and watched Rebels, you probably didn't know who Thrawn was unless you read or knew about the expanded universe.
Yeah.
So even then it was a little bit unfair. And now it's like, this is starting to get into territory where it's like only hardcore Star Wars.
It's definitely
get enjoyment from this.
Definitely dancing the line. I do feel like the Thrawn thing so far is fairly similar to like the dark saber thing at the end of the last season, where if you are deeply invested in Star Wars, you were like, oh my God, what? How? But if you were not, then you were like, I wonder what's going on with that weird laser sword thing. You might not even really necessarily recognize it's a lightsaber because it looks so different from your typical lightsaber. And then I feel like Thrawn was very much that, of like, if you don't know who Thrawn is, and you don't feel like connected to that character, then I think at this point you're like, oh, cool, I wonder who that guy is. But I don't want it to get in the territory of, but then because they introduced that idea, just like they introduced the Darksaber, they have to resolve those storylines within The Mandalorian, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's always been the debate about can this movie or TV show stand alone, right? Where a lot of people have argued and debated as far as like, well, if you read the comics and the novels, it's so much better. And,
right.
And the comeback to that is like, well, I'm watching the show.
But I'm watching this TV show, yeah.
I shouldn't be required to read comics and novels to get the full story or to get
1,000%.
the true journey.
Yeah.
I should come in even if I know nothing and still get enjoyment from it.
And the fact of the matter is we are already in the territory of some people perhaps making the argument. I had this reaction when I watched The Heiress, the episode of Bo-Katan, and I was so excited because I love that character. And it was just so incredible to see Katie Sackhoff bring this character to life as herself in her body and not just with her voice. But I was very curious to hear what other people's reactions that were not as heavily invested were. And by and large, it was like, my friend Amy responded to me, and she has 2 little girls, and she was like, it was awesome. I was like, dang, look, more badass ladies in Star Wars. This is sick. And I almost think you're sort of, I think, I have a lot of feelings about the word casual. I hate the word casual. If you watch Star Wars, anything Star Wars, and you like Star Wars, you are a Star Wars fan. But for your like casual television watching audience, shall we say, I don't think it's going to bother them to be like, I don't even think it's going to cross their minds twice to be like, oh man, I feel like there must be a whole lot more going on with that character that I don't know about. I think they'll just go, cool, that character looked great. That was a sick fight scene. Grand Admiral Thrawn must be a bad guy, But I think that there is a certain level of fan that is going to be more invested, but as you say, Ace, that are more in line with the like, I don't want to have to watch and read everything to understand what I'm watching right now.
Yes, and I think there's a balance to it when it comes to characters, Emma. If I want to come back to your Bo-Katan thing, to me, it's like I see another Mandalorian. She happens to be a really cool, badass lady Mandalorian. As someone who doesn't know anything, I'm just like, oh, cool, that makes sense, right? A badass female Mandalorian character who has this like other section, another group or other clan that's doing her own thing. Cool. Like as someone who's like just watching The Mandalorian and that's all I've ever seen, it follows, it makes sense. Even Ahsoka kind of, I can reach for it and I could be like, okay, sure, Ahsoka, this makes sense. But then Thrawn, it's like, Thrawn's like a different level where I'm just like, ooh.
That's, yeah.
Thrawn is like, if you're not a real deep into it, you're going to be like, the hell is this?
I was definitely not expecting it. Obviously, I'm excited because I like the character Thrawn, but I think that your misgivings are very fair, Ace, because we are starting to get into a territory of, if you're not deeply invested in Star Wars, you might be confused about what's going on the show. And I don't want that to be the case, even with some of the Ahsoka dialogue. I felt like when she was referencing the whole, like, I cannot train this child. I've seen what happens with people who have too many personal attachments and are fueled by their emotions, and I can't go down that path, etc. Like, she's talking about Anakin, obviously, with in regards to that. Like, my mom had said to me, oh yeah, I feel like there's a lot about the Rosario Dawson character I don't know. And I was like, yeah. She was Anakin's apprentice. It is wild to me in some ways that Ahsoka is unknown to people who only watch the movies and prior to her appearance on The Mandalorian only watched the live action TV stuff.
Yeah.
Because she is such a significant character.
Such a popular character for sure.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a fair point too. And I want to conclude with this when it comes to the Thrawn talk before we get to our full sabacc, is fan casting. I know this is the question that's been going around the internet.
Yeah.
But who is your...
Oh my God. I saw someone suggest Hugh Grant, and no, I can't get it out of my head because have you seen Paddington 2?
Yes. That is a great choice.
I mean, come on. But also I would love Lars Mikkelsen to just play him on screen because I think he could do it.
Speaking of Hugh Grant, I don't know if anybody's been watching The Undoing on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
But, oh, my goodness. Hugh Grant is absolutely rocking the world on that show. It's phenomenal. So,
but he's so good as the villain in Paddington 2. Like, I just think he would have so much fun. He's so fun to watch. I just think he would be great.
I have to give a shout out to Hugh Grant. I think he's also in, bear with me here, is he in the King Arthur movie no, that's Jude Law. I'm thinking of Jude Law.
Oh my God.
My apologies.
Yeah, that's Jude Law.
Jude Law would be great too, though.
Jude Law would be good too.
Jude Law would be really good, yeah.
There's Jude Law. A lot of people saying Pierce Brosnan. A lot of Michael Fassbenders out there.
Yeah, I saw Jeremy Irons in chat. I think that's a really great suggestion as well.
Jeremy Irons, Michael Fassbender. Someone says Matt Smith. That's a great choice.
Let us know. Firstcut.live.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Smith was a one that came up. What was the other one that I saw that a lot of people had? Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch. A lot of people wanted.
Oh, yep. I could see that fit, like especially with his face.
Yeah.
I think Lars Mikkelsen could do it. They just need to shave his beard and paint him blue, you know?
It worked out with Katie Sackhoff. Like, why not?
I'm looking at pictures of Lars Mikkelsen not as Stregobor in The Witcher, but with like a more clean-shaven, close-shaved face.
Yeah.
I think they should just cast Lars Mikkelsen, but I do still think Hugh Grant would be amazing.
Give the voice actor a chance.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's move on to full sabacc.
Full sabacc.
All right, so our full sabacc is the lead up to, this is what's crazy about this show, Emma, is that right when you think that reveals couldn't stop and that people latched on to different things, the number one thing people latched onto wasn't Ahsoka, wasn't Thrawn, wasn't Grogu. To me, what I've seen the most of, Emma, is who is the next Jedi we are going to see in this show.
Yes.
So much speculation has gone on throughout Star Wars Twitter, speculating when Ahsoka mentioned as far as like place the baby on the magic stone, which is what she says to do with Grogu.
That is what she said.
And she says like another Jedi will appear, or maybe a Jedi will maybe will appear, will be called to. And everyone was like, who could it be? And I love that nothing could top this, like not Thrawn or Grogu or anything. Everyone's like, what's the next Jedi? And I'm like, bro, how can you not be satisfied with what we had? But all right, Emma, who is the next Jedi, if we do see another Jedi, that we are going to see in the show? And before you answer this, I can't believe that no one is just saying the most obvious one, and everyone's like, Mace Windu.
What?
Everyone's saying like Mace or like Luke Skywalker. They're like, Luke Skywalker, Mace Windu. And I'm like, there's one that's so obvious that you guys are like, come on.
I mean, I was not going to answer either of those.
Okay.
Because my thought was, keeping with the where's Grand Admiral Thrawn thread, I'm thinking it's Ezra Bridger.
How can no one just say Ezra Bridger? I was like, why is everyone being like, oh, Luke, it's clearly Luke. He's clear. I'm like, Ezra makes like literally the most sense.
Yeah.
How can you guys not think
also,
of Ezra?
if you think about, I mean, not that he's an animal, but like Ezra's got like a great connection with like cute stuff. So
Yes, he does. Obviously he's not an animal, but again, that's very true.
Yeah.
Ezra makes the absolute most sense to me, and I'm shocked that a lot of people aren't just like connecting the dots. Like literally all you have to do is go like this.
Yeah, it's you're just drawing a straight line from Thrawn.
Yeah. So it goes like Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano, she mentions Thrawn, and it's like, who's the next Jedi? And everyone's like, Mace Windu. And I'm like, what? Where'd that like line just go way out there, whereas everyone thinking like Mace is going to come back? But I think it's Ezra. The other line that a lot of people, or the other dot that people are connecting, or that I'm connecting to, is again, apologies. I'm going to butcher his name, but Rahul.
Oh, yeah. Playing Ezra, you mean?
He's been tweeting about it.
I know.
Forever, that I'm just like. And now we get a little glimpse of like a possible another Jedi showing up and a Thrawn reference. Like, come on now. This is kind of like easy to be like, oh, it's going to be Ezra and it's going to be Rahul playing him.
Yeah.
In, I don't know if it's the next episode or the following episode, but it might
be the last episode of the season.
Could be the last, but either way, that's where I first thought. I'm so glad you're with me, Emma, because I thought it was crazy when everyone was going like Cal Kestis, Mace Windu, Luke Skywalker.
I would sort of love it if it was Cal.
If it was Cal, it'd be cool. I can't lie. That'd be
I love
great.
it if it was Cal too. I'd love it if it was Cal.
It'd be kind of great if it was Cal.
But everyone's like, it's clearly Luke Walker. He's gonna be played by Bucky. This is gonna happen, guaranteed. Which is. I'd be cool with that too, but again, we're starting to go into territory where it's coming right back to the Skywalker saga if we do see an appearance from Luke. But again, Luke does make sense as well. But to me, it's going to be Ezra Bridger, and I, for one, am so hype if we do get to see that, Emma. Any final thoughts on that? I mean,
I think it's going to be Ezra, but I also, bringing up Cal Kestis, though, I'm like, Cameron Monaghan's like a little young, I think, to play. I mean, I'm positive to play Cal Kestis at this stage of his life, but I mean, they modeled the character looks just like him. The character in the video game is literally just him. So it would be cool to see him in one of the TV shows, or a lot of the characters. There were a lot of good characters in Fallen Order, but yeah, I think it's Ezra. I think it's an easy connect the dots, and I think that I am still standing by my previous full Sabacc that I've said before, that Sabine is going to show up on the show as well.
Can I say that I think she's going to show up as well? I almost guarantee it. But I don't think it'll be this season.
Not this season. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think it'll be this season, but to me, Sabine makes so much sense. But again, I think that'll be for the following season.
Yeah.
As far as who's showing up. But Sabine and Ezra are like coming. If you're going to bring Ezra, might as well bring in Sabine, and she makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, I mean, might as well throw Hera in there too. Like, let's just get everyone.
Get Jason in there.
It's just going to be Chopper. It's just Chopper rolls up.
Dude, if Chopper shows up, I freaked out when Chopper showed up in Rogue One. So I would love it. Alrighty, let's finish up with POC Spotlight. No squad up this week, guys. Sorry about that. But it's POC Spotlight. Do you have that RB3? I have no idea if you got that in time. If you didn't, no worries. I could just talk about who it is.
Of course I got it.
POC Spotlight is someone that I laughed when people were mentioning him coming back, Emma. I just said his name. One of my favorite characters, if I'm being honest, Mace Windu.
Yes.
I love Mace Windu. Literally one of my favorite characters inside the Star Wars universe, obviously played by the amazing Samuel L. Jackson. This is a character who is top dog Jedi. Literally him and Yoda are like the dynamic duo as far as like sharing the responsibility of being the number one dude. Obviously a lot of people say he's like number two to Yoda's number one, but I always saw them as like sharing that. What are your thoughts on Mace, and how do you feel looking back at him as a character throughout the Star Wars universe?
I obviously loved Mace Windu from the get-go, because how could you not? It's Sam Jackson, and he has a purple lightsaber. Like, that was the coolest thing to me. It was the first time we'd seen a purple lightsaber. And of course, the story goes that Sam Jackson agreed to play this character on the condition that he could have a purple lightsaber and be the only one. So when all the crazy lightsaber fights were happening, he'd always know which one was him. But But it is really interesting because it didn't super cross my mind when I was watching these films as a kid, how important it was that they had made a Black man like at the very top of his game. Because to me, I see Sam Jackson, I think, oh my God, he's an action star. He's such a badass. I love him. This makes so much sense. But it's also super important within sort of the political hierarchy of the Jedi that you have this very, and he's ruthless, but he's very like relatively even keeled, actually. Like he doesn't take shit from anybody, but he's not a caricature.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea. You said it, right? It's one of those things where it really does mean a lot that George chose Sam Jackson to play, again, the top dog Jedi.
Yeah.
The number one dude, him and Yoda are number one, who has so much authority, has so much power, has so much grace, has so much wisdom, and his ability to give orders and give commands that he feels is the right decision. It means a lot. Like it means a lot to a lot of people, and I think that's a really significant casting, a really amazing character. Obviously, throughout the animated series, Clone Wars as well, he's great in that. He's great in everything. Like in the comics, he's amazing. Really, one of my favorite part of the prequels is Sam Jackson as Mace Windu. A lot of people still feel like he got done dirty as far as his exit. I am one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like cut off his hand and throw him off a building, man. Come on.
I mean, we are talking Dave Filoni, like king of bringing characters back from the dead. So
there you go.
Who knows? Maybe it is going to be Mace Windu.
It's Mace and Grogu on an action adventure show. That's the next show we have. But RB3, any thoughts on Mace before we take off?
Yeah, Mace Windu's always been one of my favorite characters, even before I was really into the whole Star Wars universe. Even as a kid, just seeing the prequel commercials and seeing a character like Sam Jackson being a part of it was always inspirational. And to me, I always thought he was a little undersold. You know what I mean? I know a good supporter of the show, Curbside Prophet, has a really great Mace Windu pitch that he wants to see an evil Mace Windu come to life. Oh, wait a minute, are we getting? I think we just got a donation, but it played out loud, so my apologies. Y'all didn't hear it, but I think the audience heard it. But but yeah, no, I love Mace Windu, and I'm a huge fan of Sam Jackson. I hope we can see him return in some sense to the or fashion in the Star Wars universe.
Do you mind reading that one for us, man? I was gonna ask. That was my follow up, by the way. The message that we got.
Yeah, give me 1 second on that. Give me 1 second on that.
Sure. But yeah, he's clearly one of my favorite characters. I love that he pushed his way towards a purple lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the best stories in all of like back behind the scenes Star Wars things when he's like, "Hey, can I get a purple one instead?" And he's like, "Well, we actually do just red and blue." And he's like, "Well, yeah, but I want a purple one though." Yeah. I think that's.
It's like I'm Sam Jackson, so you can just give it to me.
Yeah, and I still love, just because I've seen Attack of the Clones like 50 times over the past few months. I love how he's, like you said, ruthless in the sense of like his fighting style when we get to see him in action in Attack of the Clones, when he puts the saber up to Count Dooku's neck. And then he starts just taking out droids left and right.
Yeah.
And the fact that he kills Jango, which is obviously one of the biggest moments in the movie, in my opinion, because Jango was one of my favorites, just simply because of the Mandalorian armor. I was like, I like this guy, Mandalorian armor. But when he just turns around, blocks it, cuts off his blaster, and like takes off his hand, it's one of the most savage moments in all of Star Wars. I think it's amazing. But RB3, how you doing, man?
Bradley Burnett donated $20. I actually had some questions, but you are pulling some Jedi mind tricks and answering everything. So just offering some support. But hey, here's a crazy thought, a Chopper-centric spin-off.
Yeah. Chopper saving the day. Every episode, it's like a new crime or a new mission that he has to solve and investigate.
I think Chopper would be a great protagonist for like a children-centric Star Wars television series.
Yeah, like an animated Chopper show. That'd be amazing. Chopper, The Adventures of Chopper. That'd be amazing.
Yep, would watch. Definitely would watch.
Thank you, Bradley Burnett. We appreciate that. Any more RB3?
No, we don't have any questions so far, but people, again, if you would like to support the show, it's firstcut.live. That's the way you can support the show. We greatly appreciate any donations or tips that can be accepted. Anything over the $10 donation tier will be read out loud by the British robot voice. And and if you donate $10 and plus on Super Chat as well, will be read out loud too. So please support the show. And if you can afford to support the show, at the very, very, very least, hit the like button and keep this crew going because, hey, this is the best Star Wars team in the entire world. And while I'm still talking here, I just do want to shout out a good friend of mine, Justice Escalapa. He did an amazing commercial with the Star Wars brand, and he's a huge Star Wars fan. And
cool!
We're actually in the same fraternity together, Delta Kappa Alpha. We're fraternity siblings, and we actually saw each other at the Chicago Star Wars celebration too. They actually did a really great interview talking about the impact of Ahsoka Tano to the fan community and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate. If y'all want to check it out, it's on the Star Wars YouTube channel and on StarWars.com and on their social media pages. And I retweeted it earlier today too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, salute to Justice. Salute to Justice.
Absolutely. Let's finish with this comment from Darth Mr. Meeksix. He says, "Any ideas who rescued Grogu? Jocasta Nu, any others, or were the character that answers to Grogu that Grogu calls to be the one who saved him?" Implying the Jedi that he calls to.
Right, secretly alive Mace Windu. No, I mean, there's any number of Jedi Masters that could have saved him. Again, like kind of going on the Ezra train here. And if we are going to get really interconnected, maybe like Depa Billaba, who was Caleb Doom's master, maybe Caleb helped sneak him out,
Even better. Anything like that to me just lines up perfectly. I know
Cal Kestis, that's who saved him as a baby. Yeah. And then we can have a flashback with Cameron Monaghan. Yep.
This is all lining up perfectly. I love that people are just calling out their favorite Jedis. I've heard a lot of Quinlan Voss. Shout out to Quinlan Voss. A lot of people are like, "It's Voss. It's clearly Voss. Like you guys, it's right in front of you. It's Voss." And I'm like, "Okay, sure."
All right, sure.
A lot of people saying Mace, but again, we have a comment from D-Train saying, "Bringing back Mace Windu would be lazy writing. Bringing back a character who was presumed dead. How original. I don't think Filoni is dumb enough to do that." I know he really wants to come back, and I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people are bringing up his name again.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
I don't think it's going to be Mace Windu. No, I will joke about Mace Windu all day, every day, but I seriously doubt that is the actual answer.
Yeah, I agree. A final thing, Emma. This is the last thing. My comment to my friend. What if Grogu? This is the most morbid thing I've ever thought of.
Oh no! What?
It's pretty dark.
I'm ready.
What if Grogu joins Luke's Jedi Academy?
Oh no! And gets murdered by Kylo Ren.
Like Anakin got his revenge, where he's like, "Grogu, you escaped my youngling's murder. I'm back in form of my grandson."
Oh no!
I got my revenge, Grogu. I laughed about this.
That's bad.
I know it's bad. I laughed about it so hard with a friend of mine who was like, Anakin is pissed. Like it was like a meme where it's like Anakin missed Grogu in the background of the youngling scene, and he's like pissed about it. He's like, "Damn you, Grogu, you escaped me." But Ben Solo like fulfills his destiny. I just thought of that really dark, morbid moment.
Yeah.
If that really is the case. I don't think that's the case, guys. I just thought it was a funny thing. Either way, guys, that was Sabacc the Block. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, wait. I did want to bring up before we ended as well. Just I thought that we should mention the passing of David Prowse.
Oh,
of course,
David Prowse. I apologize,
was
guys.
the actor who was in the suit for Darth Vader.
Correct.
Obviously, James Earl Jones gets most of the credit for that character as he was the voice. He's the one who became really famously associated with the role, again, because it was his voice performing it, but we don't want to overlook the people that like physically brought these characters to life. Certainly we're experiencing that a lot in The Mandalorian. The majority of the time, the person in the suit is not Pedro Pascal. It is one of several stunt doubles. But yeah, David Prowse, he was a bodybuilder. He was super tall. And I worked one or two conventions that he was at in the later years of his life. This was only a couple of years ago. And he was very nice.
Yeah. Obviously, our heart goes out to his family, to his friends, to people who remember him. He's equally a part of the Star Wars universe, just as any one of the actors is. Yeah. Absolutely. R.I.P. David Prowse, an amazing performer, really brought in that intimidating factor of Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Perfectly. Absolutely hand in hand with James Earl Jones as being Darth Vader for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
RB3, you had something?
We do have one more comment coming in. We do have one more super chat coming in from D-Train. Thank you, D-Train, from the support. Again, any last...
did I read that one?
Did you? Talking about bringing back Mace will be lazy writing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I must have not heard.
We got it.
Okay.
No worries, man.
Cool.
It just folded so naturally into the conversation that we were already having. So.
See, there you go. Other than that, no, we don't have anything else. If people want to throw in any last minute donations, it's firstcut.live.
Yeah.
But with that, we are all wrapped up.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Sabacc the Block. Emma, where can everyone find you?
You can find me all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold, at my name, Emma Fyffe. I promise I'm not always quite so salty. Thank you for bearing with my slight nerd rage that happened earlier in the show. You can also find me hosting The Download on Ben Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Wherever you like to watch Ben, there's lots of places you can do it. Twitch, YouTube, Roku, Samsung TV, etc., and so forth. And you can also find me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Emma Fyffe.
RB3.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at DirectorRB3, and check out the Seed and Sparks project for new film I'm producing, Cardboard Castles, directed and written by our good friend Johnny Romy. So be sure to check that out. Again, seedandsparks.com/Cardboard Castles. Be sure to check that out.
And I'm at Squad Leader Race, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to First Cut if you haven't done so already. Make sure you follow it at First Cut TMO as well on social media. Either way, guys, for the Sabacc the Block crew, we are peacing out. Peace out, guys.
Fair and square, baby. Fair and square.